Hello and welcome to our latest vlog. I'm Steve Clark, Methodist Minister. This is my wife Sue, and we've been reflecting past couple of few days on our time in Methodist ministry and our journeys to various places. So the time has come now to leave Staffordshire and very sadly Staffordshire oatcakes and move to Sheffield. But the way that came about, there's a few different strands actually. Perhaps the first one is that there's a weekly newspaper called the Methodist Recorder that used to be very popular, not so much these days I don't think, but I used to have that week by week and it used to frustrate me but also inspire me. And there's one particular article that I read, and I'm not sure whether I've ever done this before or since, and it so inspired me that I cut it out, and I think I still have it somewhere. And it was about this church that had almost closed. The numbers had dwindled. The build is a big building. It was let out as a carpet warehouse and I think also an auction house. But so the few people who were there met in a back room. But then something amazing happened, and it began to grow. And God worked through that church, and they had the vision of reclaiming the building, redeveloping it. Lots of money was needed, but the vision was cast and people got on board, and that happened. And I used that cutting to encourage the people in my churches in Staffordshire of what could happen when God gets hold of the people and really gives them a vision. So that's one little bit. The other is that John, our lay worker friend, who was working with us then in Staffordshire, and I went to a day conference at a church called St Thomas's in Crooks in Sheffield, which is a very big Anglican church. And I think during the lunch break, John and I went for a little walk and we came across very close actually another church, another big building, and this was the Wesley Hall Methodist Church. And as we walked by, John just made almost a throwaway comment. He looked up at the notice board and said, I think I can see your name on there one day. Well, I didn't make much of it, and I think I almost forgot it. And then the time came for us to move to new passes new, and it's what happened then was a long list of ministers who were thinking about moving, churches who were wanting new ministers, and so I had this list, and we wrote to this church in Sheffield that I thought that I really fancy that it kind of suits what we're looking for, and at the same time. The person from Sheffield wrote to us saying, would you like to come and meet us? So to cut a very long story short, we moved to Sheffield, and I became minister of Wesley Hall in Crooks and Walkley Ebenezer, and realised that this was the very church that John, our friend, has said, that's your name's going to be on that board, and also the very church about which I'd read in the Methodist Recorder. So that was amazing how that all came together. Now, when we arrived in Wesley Hall in particular, there were two issues that we needed to address. The first was that their previous minister, who was a great guy, very charismatic, upfront leader, he was quite different in style to me, my style of leadership. So that took, I think, a bit of getting used to for the folk there. The other problem, or the issue, was that building project, that redevelopment, had brought everybody in the church together. They'd worked hard together to bring that about. But by the time we got there, that happened, and to some extent, some of the factions in the church had become more apparent, and there was much less unity in the church than what we would really have liked and hoped for. So I've spoken for quite a long time. So do you want to say anything, any of your reflections on what happened when we got there, how you felt about that?
Well, I think the process was amazing because we'd also looked at another church that desperately wanted us to go, and we just felt that was going to Sheffield was the right thing. But it wasn't easy when we arrived because I think when ministers go, sometimes the congregation has to go through a period of almost grief. And we knew that the folk in Stoke were desperately missing us, and the folk in Sheffield were missing their previous minister. And it just took a little bit of time for things to settle down. And it wasn't always easy, but I think we made it.
And there were lots of positives about the church when we arrived, Wesley Hall. There were people of all age groups were there, quite a good number of children, young adults there who we could work alongside. So there was lots of gifted, talented people, and we loved working with them over the coming years. So there was an awful lot going for it, but there was this quite a while, this underlying kind of division within the church that we struggled to know how to respond to, and at times it became quite difficult knowing how to respond to that. But our memories of our time in Sheffield are almost all positive and really good. And next time we speak to you, I want to just tell you a little bit about what happened during our Sheffield years. But we're so convinced that God took us there for a purpose, and we were blessed while we're there, although, as I say, there were struggles as well. So tomorrow, the next step on the journey. So look forward to seeing you then. God bless, and thanks so much for watching today.